It was just another day on a bustling movie set. Directors shouting instructions, crew members rushing to set up scenes, and actors preparing for their roles. Among the chaos, a beautiful chestnut horse stood patiently, ready for its moment on camera. But behind the scenes, something unexpected was unfolding. The director, perhaps overwhelmed by the pressures of the day, began treating the horse harshly, yanking its reins and raising his voice. The crew glanced nervously at each other, but stayed silent, fearing the consequences of speaking up. What the director didn't realize, however, was that someone was quietly watching from the shadows, none other than Keanu Reeves. Known for his kindness and calm demeanor, Keanu wasn't the type to cause a scene. But what he witnessed tested his limits. Should he intervene? Would it risk disrupting the production or even his own role in the film? The atmosphere grew tense as the director's frustration boiled over, and the horse flinched under his harsh commands. What happened next was something no one on set could have expected. Keanu Reeves stepped forward, and the entire dynamic of the day shifted. Stay tuned to find out how this moment became an unforgettable story for everyone involved. The set grew silent as Keanu stepped into the light, his calm yet commanding presence drawing every eye. The director froze mid-shout, caught off guard by the unexpected interruption. Keanu didn't say anything at first. His gaze focused on the horse, whose uneasy movements betrayed its stress. It was clear he wasn't just concerned. He was quietly assessing the situation. The crew exchanged nervous glances. Keanu was known for his professionalism, never one to cause drama. Why was he stepping in now? Was this about the horse or something deeper? Everyone wondered what he would say, but Keanu remained silent, his body language doing all the talking. Meanwhile, whispers spread across the set. Some crew members revealed that this wasn't the first time the director had shown his temper, though this was the first time it involved an animal. The horse, a gentle creature trained for film work, had been brought in from a reputable stable. Its handler, standing a few steps away, looked torn between wanting to intervene and knowing her position on set was fragile. Keanu finally spoke, his voice calm but firm. "Is everything okay here?" His question was simple, but it carried weight. Everyone held their breath, waiting to see what would happen next. The air was thick with tension as everyone waited for the director's response. He hesitated, clearly caught off guard by Keanu's unexpected intervention. "Everything's fine," he said quickly, brushing off the question with a wave of his hand. But the look in Keanu's eyes said he wasn't convinced. The horse's handler, emboldened by Keanu's presence, stepped forward. "He's just a little stressed," she said, her voice trembling slightly. "I was about to take him aside for a break." The director shot her a sharp look, but she avoided his glare, focusing on the horse instead. Keanu walked closer, gently reaching out to the horse, who seemed to relax under his calming presence. "Looks like he's been through a lot already today," Keanu said, his tone even but pointed. His words hung in the air, subtly challenging the director without escalating the situation. Meanwhile, whispers among the crew grew louder. Some murmured their admiration for Keanu's quiet courage, while others speculated about how the director might react. A few even exchanged stories about their own encounters with the director's temper. The director, visibly uncomfortable, forced a tight smile. "Let's move on," he said. But it was clear this wasn't over. Something had shifted, and everyone could feel it. The director's attempt to brush things off didn't sit well with the crew, or with Keanu. Though the scene moved forward, the tension lingered like a storm cloud. The horse, now resting under the handler's careful attention, was calm but visibly exhausted. Keanu remained nearby, watching the director's every move with quiet intensity. It was clear he wasn't going to let this go. As the next setup began, the director's frustration resurfaced. A minor technical issue delayed the shoot, and his patience wore thin. He snapped at a lighting technician, slammed his clipboard onto a nearby table, and muttered under his breath. The crew exchanged uneasy glances, their earlier whispers now silent. Everyone was walking on eggshells, afraid of what might happen next. Keanu, however, stayed composed. He had seen enough. During a brief pause, he approached the handler again, speaking in hushed tones. "Does this happen often?" he asked. The handler hesitated, looking around to ensure no one was listening. "More than it should," she admitted. Their quiet exchange didn't go unnoticed. The director caught sight of them and stormed over, his expression dark. "What's going on here?" he demanded, his voice echoing across the set. All eyes turned to Keanu, waiting to see how he would respond. The tension was at its peak, and no one dared to look away. The director's question hung in the air, heavy with tension. Keanu turned to face him, his calm demeanor unshaken. "I was just checking in on the horse," Keanu said evenly, his voice carrying a quiet authority. "It looks like he's had a rough day." The director's jaw tightened, his frustration clearly bubbling beneath the surface. "We're here to make a movie, not run a petting zoo," he snapped. But before Keanu could respond, something unexpected happened. A young production assistant stepped forward. She had been working quietly in the background all day, blending into the chaos, but now her voice cut through the silence. "It's not just the horse," she said, her voice shaking but determined. "You've been pushing everyone too hard, and it's not right." Gasps rippled through the crew. No one had dared to confront the director before. The director's face turned crimson as he turned to the assistant. "Excuse me," he said, his tone sharp. But before he could say more, another crew member chimed in. Then another. Slowly, a wave of voices rose, backing up the assistant and revealing just how deep the tension on set had been brewing. Keanu didn't say a word. He simply stood there, watching as the tide began to turn. The director's authority was unraveling, and the set was on the brink of something no one could have predicted. The set was in chaos, the crew's voices growing louder as they aired their frustrations. The director, overwhelmed and visibly cornered, struggled to regain control. "Enough," he finally shouted, his voice cracking under the strain. "Do you all think you can run this better than me? Go ahead." His words were meant to intimidate, but they only fueled the crew's courage. Keanu stepped forward again, his calm presence silencing the uproar. "This isn't about running the show," he said, his voice firm but understanding. "It's about respect for the crew, the animals, everyone involved. We're all here to make something great, but that can't happen if people and animals are mistreated." His words hung in the air, and for a moment, the director looked as though he might argue. But then something shifted. "It's not just for his well-being, it's part of the production agreement." The director froze, realizing she was holding a document he'd signed himself. In that moment, the unexpected twist came. From behind the monitors, the film's producer emerged, having witnessed everything. "We've been reviewing reports about your behavior for weeks," she said calmly, handing the director an envelope. "Consider this your final warning." The crew stood in stunned silence as the director, pale and furious, stormed off the set. Keanu looked at the handler and the production assistant, giving them a small nod of approval. The tension finally lifted, replaced by a quiet determination among the crew to move forward together. With the director gone, the atmosphere on set shifted dramatically. The crew began to regroup, exchanging relieved smiles and quietly thanking one another for speaking up. The producer assured everyone that moving forward, respect and professionalism would be prioritized, not just for the people on set, but for the animals as well. It was a moment of collective change, sparked by the bravery of a few and the calm leadership of one unexpected figure. Keanu stayed for a while longer, checking on the horse and speaking kindly with the handler. "He'll be okay," she said, patting the horse's neck. "Thanks to you." Keanu smiled softly and shrugged. "Sometimes all it takes is paying attention," he replied, his words simple but deeply meaningful. As the day wrapped up, the horse was taken back to the stable for some well-earned rest, and the crew prepared for the next shoot with renewed energy. The production assistant who had spoken up found herself receiving quiet words of encouragement from others, her courage inspiring those who had stayed silent for too long. In the end, it wasn't just a story about one mistreated horse. It was a story about standing up for what's right, even when it's difficult. And as Keanu left the set that day, he left behind not just a moment of kindness, but a reminder that true leadership comes from empathy and respect. And the horse, he got the rest he deserved, thanks to an unexpected hero who turned a chaotic day into a turning point for everyone on set.